Hetepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Kasank Ma Keparu with another video for you. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to access secret wisdom and knowledge. Now, before I go into that, hit the like button at the bottom here and subscribe to my channel if it's your first time watching. And share this video with family and friends. I want to get the subscriber count up. We're almost at 5,000, so that would be great if we can get new subscribers and hit that mark. But we want to start this revolution and get this knowledge out there. This is some really good information. So share the video with family and friends, and hopefully they'll take an interest and follow along. So let's get into the subject matter, and let's talk about accessing secret hidden knowledge. Now, one of the things that we have to be aware of, that what is being taught in the New Age movement and the conspiracy theory arena, and when in the spiritual arena, is that the more books you read, the more knowledge you acquire, and the more, let's say, I'll say knowledgeable you are in a certain subject matter. But one of the things that I want to remind individuals is that sometimes there's a detriment to reading books because books are secondhand experiences. So for example, if you're reading a book on the Holocaust, you're reading a book on slavery, you're not getting firsthand experience as to what happened. And I always call this term re-experience it. And the way you re-experience something, because you've already experienced it to a certain degree, is that you practice the art of meditation. And meditation, you can take your consciousness and travel to different points in time and history with your consciousness and re-experience those events firsthand rather than getting information from a book. In fact, I believe there's too much reliance that we have on this earthborn book knowledge. You know, I see a lot of people who are sitting down and you have they have the librarian back and they're very arrogant and they want you to be impressed by the fact that they have this library in their house. But yes, it's a great thing to read books and be up on all of this. And that is a requirement. You should do that. But you should also practice the art of meditation to access higher knowledge, the type of knowledge that you won't find in books, you know? So I'm gonna go over with you at least 4 points on how to access secret wisdom, you know? And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I wanna do is I wanna go over with you, because a lot of you have been asking me about certain books, what books are good to read, or what books that you should start out with as your journey to become a master of magi. So let me just go over some books that you should probably have in your library that you should start reading up on, because I think that it's going to be beneficial to you in your journey. Sorry, I was pausing because I'm reading the chat room here. So one of the books that must be a requirement to have in your household, or have in your library, is the I-Ching, all right? And this is the Chinese oracle book. And this is by Wilhelm and Baynes, and this book is phenomenal. It combines the wisdom and knowledge of various different Chinese sages, including Confucius, or Kung Fu Se, we call him. So this book is something that's a requirement, and it'll teach you how to use the oracle using 3 coins or Yahweh sticks. And you can consult this oracle whenever you're going through trials and tribulations and you need some wisdom and guidance. And this oracle is basically an intermediary or a communication device to God, to source. The next book, this book is just blew me away when I read it. It's called Liber, Null, and Psychonaut. I mean, this book just almost changed my life. There's so much in here, and it really made me start to understand that who we are today is not how we were meant to be. Our ancestors created a world and a life for us that has been destroyed by the ruling elite. And this book tells you, like, if you intend to be a real magi, you need this book, Liber, Null, and Psychonaut, okay? A next book to get is this one, is Super Learning, okay? And this is one by Sheila, Ostrander, and Lynn, Schroeder. And these are two, this is the Russians doing experiments into accelerated learning using trance state and hypnosis. And really good book, really good book. I recommend this. And this book comes with an audio, and it teaches you how to get into the trance state to access, to not access Hollywood wisdom and knowledge, but to retain things. And actually, well, let me give you the details of this, because this is a really good book. It shows you how to possess certain historical figures or archetypes to where, like, you could possess, you could go into hypnosis trance state and possess the talents of Leonardo da Vinci or Nikola Tesla. So it shows you, it talks about those case studies and where they have done these things and they have really worked out phenomenally using trance state. Another good book to read is, this is France Bardon's The Practice of Magical Evocations. Now, when I was first starting out, my high priest did not want me messing with this book, and I'll be honest with you, it is a very deep book. It basically tells you how to manifest different spirits that can help you. Spirits, what we call is genii, and a genii is a genius in a certain field of study. So if you want to master mathematics, if you want to master playing the flute, if you want to master astronomy, there is a spirit or a genii that governs that particular field. And this book shows you how to invoke, there's two, invoke and evoke. It shows you how to evoke those spirits so that you can work with them and they can give you that wisdom and knowledge in that particular field. And this is why you'll sometimes see me come down on the major universities, because they don't practice the true higher knowledge and wisdom of occult science. And our ancestors who are occultists communicated with interdimensional beings or spirits to gain higher knowledge and higher wisdom. And these spirits exist and they want to communicate with us. Another book that changed my life, and this book is a must for your library, is the Metu Nefer by Ra'u Nefer Amen. The Metu Nefer by Ra'u Nefer Amen. All right. So you need to get this book. And this book is old because I have gone through this book several times. And if you look at these stains, these are actually sacred oils that I anointed this book with as I was reading. This book is phenomenal. It also tells you how to use the great Oracle of Tahuti. So you can consult the Oracle of Tahuti when you're having issues. And that's another Oracle device you can use alongside the I-Ching, okay? And I believe the I-Ching was brought to the West by, Wilhelm and Baynes. In fact, when they consulted the Oracle about how the West will receive the I-Ching oracle, and the I-Ching said the fat of the pheasant will not be eaten. That means that of course, it's a Chinese allegory, or you know, the way they put it, you have to decipher it. But what it basically means is that the meat and potatoes or the goodness of the I-Ching will not be taken in by Western culture or Western people. This is the tarot, plain and simple. If you want to get into tarot, this is the first book I actually got when I was studying tarot. There are better books out there as you get more advanced, but this one's a good one for your first stepping stone. Okay, the Tarot, Plain and Simple by Anthony Lewis. Okay, next one you should have is the Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. This one really tells you we're living in a fourth dimensional holographic experience that's not real. It's all Maya. It's all an illusion. All right. And this book, The African Religion by Lorente, this is a really, in fact, this book really changed my perspective on religion and spirituality, because this book tells you why African religions were set up in the way they were, and you'll get an understanding of right brain, how the right brain approaches religion as opposed to the left brain approaches religion. And it's really phenomenal. And I think that anybody who is a Christian reads this book, it'll change your mind. You'll start to realize where we went wrong as a society, as a people. And as you see, I've gone through this book and highlighted so much and marked it up because this book is just phenomenal, phenomenal. Okay, rounding it out, there's 2 books left. And they're basically very similar. It is the Qi-Gong, the Tree of Life Qi-Gong by Ra'u Nefer Amen. And this one is the Qi-Gong Healing Prescriptions. Qi-Gong is a fantastic art for bringing you higher wisdom and knowledge, and also cultivating the energy meridians or the energy systems within you. And that is key to bringing in and accessing higher knowledge, because if your health is not in order, if your chakras are unbalanced, then there's going to be a problem with you accessing the secret wisdom that is out there. Now, as I said before, the many universities rely on left brain thinking. So the context of what they're all about is basically, if you can remember something, then you are so-called educated. So what they're really testing is on your ability, number one, to take tests, how good are you? And number two, rote memory. So if you're good at rote memory and you have a keen ability to take tests or know how to take tests, and meaning that you're breaking it down into how to answer things via writing paragraphs or writing papers and multiple choice, if you've mastered those things, then you are an accredited person, knowledgeable as far as the university system is concerned. You are a scholar, which is totally ridiculous and erroneous. All right, so let's keep that in mind. But I have two special guests with me who will help me to illustrate my point about what is truly higher wisdom. I have Thoth Tahuti, the god Tahuti, and the god Sebek or Anubis. Okay, now what we need to understand is, let me just, for the sake of this, transpose these two. That Tahuti is right brain thinking and Sebek is left brain thinking. The way the world exists today is Sebek is in control. Left brain thinking is paramount. So if you noticed how he has the head of kind of like a dog and the ears are elongated, and that's because Sebek is known for hearing and knowledge that comes from books, and Sebek is very good with facts. So you build a society based on left brain thinking, which is based on just facts. But then along comes Tahuti or Thoth. He goes by the name of Hermes Trismegistus. Let me just get this here. His scepter is falling off. Give me 1 second. We'll make sure he has his scepter. And Tahuti is right brain. So Tahuti's mate is Ma'at. So Ma'at is the law. Tahuti is the measure of the law, because you have to know how to apply the law. And Tahuti also stands for oracles. So Tahuti is the higher wisdom. Tahuti is the wisdom of God, whereas Sebek is only earthborn knowledge that is acquired through books and study. Tahuti accesses knowledge from what we call as the Akashic records. And you may have heard that Tahuti wrote the Emerald Tablets. So let's go into the details about the difference between the right brain and left brain thinking. Right brain thinking or wisdom deals not necessarily with facts, but with the truth of the matter, because there's a big difference between a fact and the truth. A fact is, you walk into a room and the person is holding a gun and there's another person on the ground shot in the back. The fact is that the person standing over them is holding a gun. But did they actually shoot that person? What's the truth? You don't know the truth, because the left brain is limited. It separates things. And we have mistaken the fact for the truth. So therefore, we can convict that guy, that gentleman, for shooting the other person in the back based on facts, which we call circumstantial evidence, but they wouldn't call that circumstantial evidence. Or they could go, oh, based on, beyond a reasonable doubt. Or in some cases, in some courts, like small claims courts, a preponderance of the evidence, where a preponderance of the evidence still doesn't lead to truth. A preponderance of the evidence says might makes right. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you vote for a president, what you're saying is the collective might makes right, because the collective decided to get together and come to a consensus of thought, therefore it must be true. But Tahuti tells us that the truth is beyond the collective consensus. And there's an old saying that 1 million people could say it's so, but if the I-Ching or Tahuti says it's not, then it's not. Because truth is not determined by consensus. All right? The truth deals with the higher mind, the higher brain, because the higher mind and higher brain looks at things in a holistic perspective. This is why we cannot solve the problems of society today, because we're caught up in limited thinking, in left brain thinking, because we can only see one half of the problem. And as I said before in a previous video, you can't solve a problem using the same mindset that created it, using the left brain. You have to go to higher wisdom and knowledge. So we know that the first way to acquire knowledge is through reading and through having a library. Every family should have, or every individual should have their own personal library. But that is only a very piece of it. The next step that we have to go to access the higher wisdom and knowledge is through meditation. Now, there are two ways to do this in meditation. The first way is stilling the thoughts, and that's how you get to the level of Tehuti, intuiting wisdom. To intuit is Tehuti. And that's, you sit down and you meditate and you clear the mind of all thoughts. And when you clear the mind of all thoughts and emotions, then you start to be a receiver of information from the etheric realm. Now, the next way you can do this is you do a meditation where you're purposely going in there with the objective to take your consciousness and project your consciousness to a certain time period or place to acquire or re-experience the knowledge, as I alluded to at the beginning of this broadcast. If I want to experience what it is to be a Civil War veteran or fight in the Civil War, I can do a meditation, regression meditation, to go back to that time period and experience what it was like and actually be a soldier and acquire that knowledge of what it's like to be in battle. Or if I wanted to experience what it's like to be a Roman soldier, I can do that. And therefore, reading about the life of a Roman soldier in a book is not authentic. It is not real. It's secondhand experience. I can re-experience that by going into the trance hypnosis state. And from there, come out with so much wealth of knowledge because I'm in tune to that. Now, the other way to do this is, because we all are receivers, is to access the Akashic records. And what are the Akashic records? They are the records, it's the 0-point energy field. And this 0-point energy field is an electromagnetic field that contains all the wisdom and knowledge of the universe. And it's accessible to us. We just have to tune into it through the right vibrational frequency. Now, I can get deeper into this because the Akashic Records it has closed gates that are governed and locked by certain hakao, mantras that will unlock them. And in this Akashic Record, in this field, it unleashes information for every age, like the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius, so that the world can start to move in a certain direction at a certain point in time, because we're constantly downloading information from the Akashic Records so that the world can move and keep moving progressively in a certain direction. Because you wonder how the masses and how discoveries are made. It has been studied that many scientists have come across discoveries at the same exact time. How is this? By coincidence? No, it's because the Akashic Records are releasing information at particular points in time. Because everything is set in terms of the development of the universe. Now, the next way we can gain wisdom is through our ancestors, and working with our ancestors and honoring them by putting an ancestry shrine together. They will work with us to bring us knowledge in a particular field, or just knowledge to spiritually grow. And when you are in contact with your ancestors, you'll find that a lot of wonderful things will happen. A lot of times you'll get psychic predictions about things that will happen. And that's wonderful. And I'm going to go to the last one, which is a bonus round, is working with genii. If you want to really access higher wisdom, you'll need to invoke certain spirits who govern there's a spirit that governs every field of subject matter out there. If you want to attract a woman, you want to attract a man, there are certain spirits that will come to you and either give you power of attraction or whisper in your ear certain things you need to do to attract them. And many people talk about things like, where do you get the information? I said, well, it's not from books, because I don't regurgitate information. I get the information from the meditations. I do Tahuti meditation. And then things will come to me. This is one of the reasons why I left priesthood, because I felt it can only take me but so far, and that there was more information out there that I needed to plug into and download. And that's where I began my journey. When you start living a healthy lifestyle, when you're not eating meat and putting chemicals in your body, then you are a receiver for this higher wisdom. But it takes time. You have to give yourself time for this. It's not going to happen overnight. And the greatest benefit of it is it's supposed to benefit your life. If you can't apply it to your life and have a more streamlined and healthier lifestyle, then this knowledge is of no use. Then why have it? Now, this doesn't mean that once you get wisdom and knowledge, you're going to be like you're going to be like having a lifestyle that's free of problems. Because if you look at, for example, the tarot card, one of the wisest, two of the wisest people in the tarot card is the Hermit and the High Priestess. But remember, they are both loners. So when you get to that level, there's a possibility of you becoming ostracized by society, because society is corrupt. So therefore, you'll come to a fork in the road and you'll have to decide, where do I want to go? In fact, in the great I-Ching, it talks about that. When you start to come to the level of sagehood, it says you have a choice between two paths. One where you can ascend to the heights of fame and notoriety, or another one where you can just go off into your own world. And in fact, the story of Asar and Aset, when Haru wanted to defeat Set, he had to go to Tahuti. And it was said, legend was said, that Tahuti lived in the mountain and he was recluse. He was all alone and isolated. He didn't have contact with people. That's because when this knowledge starts to come to you, especially when you learn the power of invoking spirits, people are going to shy away from you because it's too much for them to handle, because they've been so conditioned by society and the matrix to look at this stuff as negative. So you're not going to have discourses with them over lunch talking about, oh yeah, I invoked this spirit of Bilal and I spoke to Bilal last night and Bilal said this. They're going to take you crazy when actually they're crazy and you're the one who has everything straight. So keep that in mind. That it can be a lonely journey once you get on this path, because you'll start to realize and become awakened. Too many people in certain circles think they're using the term woke, that they're conscious, when they're not. You can tell by the way they speak. It betrays who they are, especially if they're cursing and they have fight with other internet personalities. It's ridiculous. You're not conscious. You're not woke. They have no compassion for their fellow man or woman. That's not being conscious. That's not being woke. They don't meditate. They don't evoke spirits to communicate with spirits. And you should be evoking spirits, or at least the ancestors, on a weekly, if not daily basis. This is important. If you truly want to be a master magi, there is some knowledge and wisdom that our ancestors didn't leave in books. But you're going to have to access it through your Akashic records. And in order to get there, you're going to have to become a different type of person, a more spiritual person, because those secrets aren't just unlocked to anyone. And in fact, the reason why the ruling elite, the Illuminati, are so powerful is that they've become so knowledgeable in the technique of opening portals to enter to different dimensions and communicating with interdimensional beings who are now counseling them and giving them knowledge. So when I talk to individuals and they want to change the direction of the planet, and they want to free the planet. And I tell them that you have to understand you're dealing with the cabal, a select group of individuals who have occult powers, and that dethroning them is not going to be easy. You're going to have to learn those same techniques and powers that they know in order to counteract what they're throwing out there. You're not going to be able to do it by reading books and proselytizing or setting up a YouTube channel or getting on the pulpit or going out there and stockpiling an armory. You're not going to be able to do it that way. You're not going to be able to do it through a political coup d'etat or coup d'etat. You're not going to be able to do it. Because no matter who you put in office, it's not going to change the structure of what's in place. The whole structure has to come down. I see so many people like your Alex Joneses and you young Turks all talking about, well, it's all about who you vote, who you put in office. We've got to make sure that we have the right politician on our side. It doesn't matter who's going to run for office. It doesn't matter if you take apart the structure that's in Washington, because if you put someone else in there who comes out of this same world, they're going to have the same thinking. You see, the thinking of the masses of the people have to change. When the thinking of the masses of the people, which is the 100 monkey principle or the tipping point, when the masses of people and their thought process change, we shift. And when you shift the frequency of the planet, then that changes everything. But as long as the planet is caught up in left brain Sebek thinking, you're going to get the same individuals coming into office one after another, and all they're going to do is create wars, economic depravity. They're going to cause strife, and it's never going to end. Many people look at JFK and his legacy as he was one of the best presidents. No, he still was a left brain linear thinker. It's not going to work. Many people praise the Dalai Lama, but all the Dalai Lama is talking about is some passivity peace stuff. That's not going to work, because you're not going to dethrone these people who are currently ruling the planet and destroying the planet by that type of passivity and thought process. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I'm saying that what he's trying to apply as a means and measure to a revolution won't work. And that in order to change the planet, you have to come with a new mindset. You have to come with that mindset of Fa Tahuti, because he is known as the reconciler of differences, because the right brain is the only thing that can reconcile the differences in the people, not the left brain. This is why when you study history and you study ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, all the scholars will agree that every ruler in ancient Kemet was of high moral status, because they aspired to be like God. Now, if you flip the script and you study the Greek and Roman civilization, all their rulers were cutthroat, murderous, conniving, and not tolerant of people. Some of the most depraved people. So how could that be? Well, there was something in the society of Atlantis and in ancient Kemet that made it so that those individuals who got into office or became king or queen, the prerequisite was to accessing and being a receiver of higher wisdom. That's not a requirement for our president. That's not a requirement for any politician or senator or mayor here in today's Western society. And it's purposely done that because they've separated church and state. But in ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, and Atlantis, everything was merged. That not only had you were a politician, but you are a religious figure too. And religion is not quite the correct word. Let's say spiritual person too. Remember, those civilizations had leaders of high moral caliber. It was inconceivable of them to do things that were against Ma'at, against truth. And one of the ruling bodies that were the most powerful in that age was the priesthood. And the priesthood governed things. They watched over the king and queen. And the king and queen got out of line, as in the case of Akhenaten, who wanted to put in place this weird monotheistic idea. The priesthood said, well, you got to go. You got to go. You're going against thousands of years of tradition that has enabled us to build pyramids, to travel the universe, astral project our consciousness through the universe. And now you're preaching some foreign idea of a monotheistic deity. We're not going to have that. And I don't want to get too much into detail because ancient Kemet did practice monotheism, but we saw the one coming as the all and the all as the one. So there was no dichotomy, we didn't see things as opposing each other. And when Akhenaten was trying to put in place his idea, he was setting things up for polarization or for seeing one thing against the other. And we never looked at things that way in ancient culture. We always saw as one thing complementing the other. But I digress from that. Tepu, I'm going to call you K83. She has a good question, or I'm sorry if it's a he, forgive me. How do you evoke spirits safely without inviting the wrong thing into your house? Well, get the book, first of all, and you can research what spirit you're looking for. And then it's good practice to wear white, to use sage, to purify your room, because that's very important, because if you're wearing the white and you're purifying the room, it kind of helps to filter out the negative spirits. Okay, and that's a great question to ask, and that's what you should be asking, because I did an evocation once and invoked a demon, and that caused a lot of problems for me. A lot of problems for me, you know, because at the time I thought I was such a high magician that I could control and command the demon to do what I wanted it to do. And then he showed me who was boss real quick. All right. And put me out in my own house. But Kay, as Kay says, I'm a woman, and a beautiful woman at that. Depu. So yeah, so you need to just be very much aware of the process of evocation. So the book goes over that to make sure that you're inviting the right spirit. And there's always there's a procedure around it too, Kay. You've got to, when you talk to the spirit, there's questions you must ask the spirit, because they must make sure that you must make sure it's the right spirit, because spirits will trick you. They'll do it all the time. And there is one test there where you have to have the spirit sign its name, because a spirit who's pretending to be somebody else will not be able to sign his name correctly. So there's all kinds of things like that the book goes over, and it'll teach you how to safeguard against being visited by the wrong entity. So for all the magi in the chat room, Mel, all set, all of you guys, please make sure you hit the like button, get these likes up, and make sure you share the video. I want to hit that 5,000 mark. And then we can celebrate, you know. But anyway, going back to what I was saying before at the beginning of this broadcast, which is specifically dealing with the major universities that teach nothing but rote memory. And, you know, I hear all the time these individuals who say, well, I came from Yale, I came from Harvard. And it's great that you've got into those universities, and you should feel proud, but you have to also keep things into perspective, that we're living in the dark ages, that the knowledge and wisdom that the ancestors left for us has been all but destroyed. And it is our job to resurrect this information and get the planet back on track. A lot of these physicists now are pioneering this information, and they're bringing it out, and it's really great information, but it's basically stuff that has been around from our ancestors, from the medicine men and women, from the priests of Africa, you know, from the Mayan kings. This information was there. So they're not making any discoveries. They're only re-experiencing things that our ancestors left behind for them to so-called re-experience or rediscover. And as I said before, with each age, the age of Pisces or Aquarius or whatever, the Akashic records open and release information to help the planet move in a certain direction. This is why many scientists across the planet make the same discoveries at the same time, because they're downloading this information from the Akashic records. And when you as a magi start to study this, and don't rely so much, I mean, get the books and use the books as you're starting out, but as you become more advanced, the knowledge will start to come to you without the books, and you can create and write your own books. I mean, Aleister Crowley and all these others, was Madame Bagista, forgot her name, would write their own books because they had reached a point where they were personally downloading information. And there was no need to continue reading on, because at some point, these magicians who are very skilled in what they are, they will write books, but they won't put the real secrets in the book. You'll have to become an initiate or an apprentice to them to gain that real knowledge. So just keep that in mind. And when you start to become experienced in this wisdom and knowledge, then you'll start to learn phenomenal things about how the universe works, how humankind works, the origin of humankind, the origin of the planet, things of that nature. So just keep that in mind. So with that, I want to thank you for tuning in today. And again, remember, hit the like button. This is Qi-Gong Ma Keperu, son of Tehuti and Ma'at. And until my next video, get your library together, meditate, and become that master magi. Amen Ra.